Oh, oh, oh. Merry Christmas. I'm sitting on a frozen chair. It's frozen to the ground. I tried to move it. Can't move it. It's almost like a frozen throne. Look at me. I have a chair. King of the castle. King of the castle. That's my Borat impression. Which is an impression of, who knows, the goats are here cleverly trying to eat things. And this is a plot update. I'm making it today. I probably won't publish it for a little while. My pipe went out. Darn it. What do you think about that, Benedict? Oh, he ran away from that. He got his spirit stolen last time with the thing. Okay, plot update. So, first I'm going to get to the context. And the context here I am, sovereign non-Volodium, in this off-grid foundation which is grown into Castle Stark. I settled vacant country permanently, my permanent residence in 2014. And the reason I'm making this plot update video is because a judge has ordered, the county superior court has ordered that Keenan Kurt be evicted from this land. And Castle Stark be destroyed. My pipe went out again. Oh. I know you're supposed to use matches, but you know. So a little context. Back in 2017, Keenan Kurt, who was the name that my mother gave me, like most infants, I was sold into slavery, abused and violated, securitized by the state. And so it wasn't until coming of age and realizing my sovereign inheritance, that's the birthright of every human, where in 2017 I changed my name to my sovereign name of sovereign non-Volodium. I did this through the same court of Addison County, the same county authority, essentially, who would do that. And so, forgive me if I'm slow. I'm trying to put this all together. It's not rehearsed. This might not even be what I put out. This might be the rehearsal. Who knows? Well, I don't really like rehearsals, so I'm just gonna let it wing. Let it fly with a wing. You gotta have wings to fly, right? So 2017, Keenan Kurt ceased to exist. So on the birth certificate of Keenan Kurt in 2017, Keenan Kurt is crossed out, deceased, no longer exists by the authority of by basically, I'm the one who initiated it, but the authority of the birth certificate getting changed was by the authority of the Addison County Court, who I filed the paperwork to do that through. So, this recent eviction order, which applies to Keenan Kurt, is peddling a fiction, because Keenan Kurt only exists as a fiction at this point. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to destroy... Well, actually, first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to yell at a chicken who's eating some insulation. Who's eating that insulation? Naughty girls, you cut that out. You better listen. Don't eat that. Go get them, boys. Get those chickens eating insulation. Cut it out. Yeah, you better listen. Okay. So I'm trying to keep this kind of light, but it's going to get... I'm going to throw some mud pretty soon here. You just wait. There's going to be some mud slinging happening. It's frozen, and so it's going to be like frozen shit slinging. It might be a violatable offense, because it's like hard. You gotta get hard here, you know? Get hard, stay hard. That was the company motto when I was at West Point. Oh wait, no. We're the flying circus, right? This is a circus. I'm flying on the wing. It was... Get hard, stay hard was like the... I don't know. There's a company motto, and then there's like some other motto. Maybe that was it. We're the flying circus, and it's get hard, stay hard. So we're hard flying circus. But I left West Point after 1 year, so that was just a temporary thing. Anyways, I went to a war college because I figured that's like my natural training is to strategy. I'm always interested in strategy. So this position that I'm in is strategical. If you read The Art of War, there's different kinds of terrain. And fighting ground is, I don't know what, I try to look this up later. I don't know if I'm just making this up or whatever, but there's dying ground. Fighting ground is dying ground, I think. Like, you only want to fight on the ground that you're prepared to die on. And then there's this saying, like, is that the hill that you want to die on or whatever? So, like, yeah, this is the hill that I'm going to die on at some point in my life. Hopefully it's not anytime soon. But what I'm going to do soon here is I'm going to get the last vestiges of the fiction that is Keenan Kurt. There's a passport and there's an ID that are still valid. And I'm going to burn those. I'm going to cut them up into little pieces. Destroy, cut up, kill Keenan Kurt. He's already dead. It's just a fiction. And then I'm going to end up throwing it in the fireplace. Because first there's going to be proof of death, and then the fire. I don't recommend burning plastic and stuff, but I'm going to put it in the fire because that's going to be the eviction. So that even the dead parts are incinerated and then evicted so that they get out of here. Oh yeah, I got plenty of time on this video. I can just keep on going. And this is only so who is this video made for? Well, anyone who's interested in the plot here, of course. But it's really made for the Addison County Sheriffs, because I think they're good people, and the state troopers too. I think they're all good people, pretty much. All my interactions with them have been positive. I got no reason to be anything but a friendly neighbor. Friendly neighbor. This judge, however, who ordered me evicted from my home, my property, my country, and the destruction of my home, property, and country. I started out as a friendly neighbor. So understanding there's some sort of dispute, what I did is they tried to hold Keenan Kurt as the subject of their proceedings. Keenan Kurt's a fiction. And so I wrote them a amicus curiae, a friend of the court brief. I don't speak Latin, so I just titled it Friend of the Court Brief. And because I'm not going to respond to the case as a subject of the case, but I respond to the court as a peer, as a friendly neighbor, so that provide the truth with the intent of keeping the peace. And I use those very words in the brief. So I explained very clearly that I'm not subject to the court. This land is the country of Elodium, and is also not subject to the court, nor is any of my property here subject of the court. And I provided a lawful citation of Article 17 of the 1777 Vermont Constitution. has the lawful right which I cite for what I'm doing. So, more background, more context. Vermont, as its origin story, was claimed by New York, the colony of New York, via the authority of the Crown of Great Britain. And so the Vermonters here ended up rejecting the authority of the Crown, the Empire. And oh my gosh, this boy is just so adorable. I just look into his eyes and he just melts me. You're so adorable, Benedict. So what happened is the Vermonters rejected the authority of that court, and they created their own state, and in so doing, created their own constitution. And look at this boy, he's just amazing. He's amazing. He doesn't like to be on camera, though. There's all sorts of miscreants who watch these videos, in fact. And this boy is just innocent and pure, so it's somewhat of a disservice to put his eyes on the camera. So he's indefeasible. Just like the right to create our own state is indefeasible. That a people has that right. It's indubitable. It's undoubtable. It's inalienable. It cannot be taken away, and it's indefeasible. It cannot be defeated. A person can be killed. I can be killed, surely. Surely I'm going to die. I could maybe be killed by someone. Who knows? But it doesn't take my rights away. So I'll retain my rights up until my death. And I'll die on this hill, which is the hill which I've settled. Vacant country. It was vacant country because it was unposted land. It was fallow, unposted land. There was no rights that were posted relative to the land. It was vacant country. That's where I settled. So all of this kind of like, you don't really get that good of a perspective, but there's a whole courtyard here, all the buildings, I all built it. There was just nothing here. Started from scratch, nothing here. No debt, no license, no permit. I have not subjugated myself in any way in what I have done, nor did the original Vermonters. And so the entire existence of the state of Vermont is founded upon this principle of the self-determination of the people and their inalienable right to form their own state and to reject the authority of foreign overlords. So this judge, I don't remember the name, who I tried to treat as a friend. Surely there's more tobacco in this pipe. I gotta keep it going. This whole idea started because I wanted to smoke the tobacco, and then I can't smoke it inside, so I decided to sit here. And then I tried to move the chair, and it's like, oh, the chair's frozen. It's like, oh, it's like a throne, like a frozen throne. I don't know the significance of the frozen throne. I think it's like a game I used to play. Anyways, all the games I used to play have all just contributed to this reality. It's all prepared me for the present moment. Everything. I just love this voice so much. He just looks at me and it's just so cute. You're so great, Benedict. Benedict Arnold. We'll go with Benedict Arnold. Here's a tangent. Should I go on tangents? Benedict Arnold was pretty great until he became a traitor against Vermont. But he was actually a pivotal foreigner that supported Vermont in its initial fight against the Crown. As did General Stark. Even more so, perhaps. Definitely way, way, way more so. Benedict Arnold, he was kind of annoying. Kind of really annoying, but he did some good things. Like when the Green Mountain Boys were like, let's row the length of Vermont. Benedict Arnold's like, nah, I'm just going to take the British ship and sail past you losers. That was his one moment of triumph, Benedict Arnold. It was pretty good. Pretty good. I think, what is the name of the ship that he seized from the British? It had some great fitting name. Of course, everything in alignment with Jah is just beautifully synchronistic. And Jah was the authority, Jehovah Jah, by which Fort Ticonderoga was stormed. by the authority of the great Jehovah. And it was a flawless victory, as all of Jehovah's victories are flawless, because how could it not be? Anyways, continuing with the story here. If only this pipe was as flawless. I'm going to light this pipe in the name of Jehovah. That it will continue to burn. If I don't forget to keep the fire going, that is. Pressure's on now. Beautiful day. It's Christmas Day. What is Christmas all about? We get terrified every winter solstice that the sun dies. The Son of God, the light of the world, the bringer of life, Christ, the living God. For all of us northerners, especially in the cold places, it's terrifying. The light disappears and it gets cold and freezing and everything dies. Yet, though the sun dies on the third day, the sun rises again. It's coming back. The light is returning. And that's why we're celebrating Christmas. Because the sun up here, the light of the world is returning. It's going to get cold. It's going to get darker before the spring, when we're going to celebrate the rebirth of Christ. Because all the life that died in the wintertime will get reborn after the spring equinox. And then after like 3 weeks, which is the time of gestation of a chicken egg, we'll celebrate Easter. It's all about the Son, God, the Son of God, the Son of the Most High. So, what am I talking about? Yeah, they're deists. What does that even mean? Okay, so many tangents. What am I saying here? Oh, the judge, right, the judge. So I addressed him as a friend. So imagine if, like, your neighbor was, like, you addressed them as a friend, and they're like, I'm going to burn down your house and kick you out of your house. It's like, oh, I guess that's not a friend, is it? Almost like an enemy, but, the Vermonters had their enemy, New York. New York was the enemy of Vermont. And they tried to send, the judges tried to say, get out of here, you Vermonters, you have no right to be here. And then they sent posses and mercenary groups, even from Germany. They hired Germans, foreigners, to come and evict the Vermonters from their rightful property and land. I can't let this go out. It would be blasphemy, utter blasphemy. So, yeah, I'm doing the most Vermont thing possible. And it's also the most American thing possible as well. And the judge is doing the most, like, British imperial thing possible. He's actually has his head up his ass because he can't see what's right in front of him. All he can see is what lies in the past. Which is scientists and judges, they kind of have the same mentality. Priests, they don't see what's in front of them, they see what's behind them. So all the facts were there for the judge, and yet he couldn't comprehend. I think he's a little slow, maybe a little retarded. So he just created a straw man argument. He said, the judge is like, oh, you must be arguing adverse possession. It's like, no, I never said the words adverse possession, did I? No. I cited the Constitution and the original precedent that the people of Vermont originally set, which is not adverse possession. It's the right of the people to create their own state and reject foreign overlordship, okay? This is the Constitution. I gotta be patient. It's cold out here. If this goes out, I'm just gonna pretend I'm done with it. I don't know if it's out yet. It's done. It's definitely done. Yep. No more pipe. So, where are we in the story? So the judge is doing the British thing, and I'm doing the Vermont thing. And so I don't have to respect this judge anymore, because if you can't see the truth right in front of you and then you just try to aggress against your neighbor, you don't deserve any respect. So the judge is asked backwards, and yet the sheriffs and whatnot, they have some form of duty to execute what the judicial system says. Yet they have a higher duty to their oath to the Constitution, which, as far as I know, all of the county and state troopers, county sheriffs, and the state troopers, they all swear an oath to the Vermont Constitution. And therefore, they have a certain responsibility to understand the history out of which that Constitution gains its authority. And it gains its authority from the sovereign people and their right of self-determination to create their own state. And Article 17 states clearly that all people have a right to emigrate to another state that will accept them, and to create their own state out of vacant country or property that they can otherwise purchase or acquire. So all of the property here I have purchased or acquired, and I have settled it all on vacant country, and of my own right I have established my allodium. The judge also didn't understand the concept of allodium. He was trying to say, oh, there's no, you haven't been granted a allodial title. It's like, he doesn't get it. It's a little slow, like I said. So, allodial title is a derivative of allodium, and it's not granted. It comes from the authority of the sovereign, from the sovereign people. So, this is my allodium, and because it is my allodium, I'm the only one with the title to my allodium. Does that make sense? Right, I'm not talking to the judge. I'm not going to try to be hostile. Really, the attitude I want to have in relation to the judge who's peddling a fiction and trying to aggress, trying to kill and destroy is ridicule, because he's a clown. And there's a big difference between a fool and a clown. I'll self-associate as a fool all day long, but not a clown. I'm not here to entertain you. I am at the service of the Most High Jah as a fool, because only as a fool can I be of greatest service. An empty cup is of the greatest utility. If your cup is full, then it has no capacity to contain anymore, and it can't function as a cup. Anyways, I'm not trying to get into Taoist principles, but I did reference, the art of war and whatnot. So, here we are. This judge has ordered Keenan Kurt evicted. So what I'm going to do within 30 days of this order, which I think was on like December 10th or 12th, I ended up burning the paperwork because it has no place here. I'm not subject to this court, and yet I still obviously don't want there to be any kind of violence. I'm abhorrent. I abhor violence, though I went to a military academy studying war, and I basically studied strategy my entire life. But if you understand the art of war, the whole point is to avoid violence. That's really the goal, is peaceful conflict resolution. Hopefully this isn't shaking, because it's like 2.5 feet on one hand. I'll use two hands so it doesn't shake. So, right, the message to the sheriffs and the troopers is that what I'm doing is lawful, what I'm doing is peaceful, and is well within my right. It's undoubtable. So this Article 17 is not in the present Vermont Constitution, but there is Article 5 in the present Constitution, where it's basically the same or similar right that a community has. The Article 17 of the original Constitution talks about that all people, and by saying have a right to emigrate to another country that will accept them, it's clear that it means not just people in the collective, but people, like individual people, all have a right to create their own state. So they had to take that out when they joined the federal union, because they can't really allow that in precedent. But they did acknowledge and allow Vermont in, which was founded on this same principle. But basically, in Article 5 of the present Constitution, it talks about the community's right to reform or I forget, reform or like reform or change, alter. So the government is within the right of the community. So there's also a community here. There's a community of animals all around me, a diverse community that's codependent. Another definition of community. There's several different definitions of community. So we're a diverse community of different species here. And not just species, there's other humans. I'm going to get to that. But the community has reformed so I can cite the present Article 5 as well as the original Article 17 as both lawful foundations for what I'm doing. Not that I need to cite those, but relative to the pre-existing order, you have to cite the precedents and the lawful basis, because that's their whole purpose, is to enforce the law. And the law is established in the Constitution. It's not found by a dictate of a judge. The judge does their best to dictate in alignment with the law, that is the Constitution, but sometimes they mess up, and then it is the responsibility of the sheriff to decide what laws are constitutional and they're going to enforce and what are not. There are many instances all the time where legislatures or judicial things will pass laws that are unconstitutional, and the sheriffs will say, no, we're not going to enforce this gun grabbing order because it's unconstitutional, or we're not going to enforce blah 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 because it's unconstitutional. Like Waco, like the stormtroopers there got an unconstitutional order, and yet they followed their unconstitutional order, and they did an absolutely heinous thing. They just murdered and destroyed many innocent people because they were following an unlawful order. The chickens are getting at the insulation again. 1 second. Chickens, don't be eating that. Get out of there. Who's eating that over here? Naughty chickens. It's you. Cut that out. Don't eat that. Who is that doing that? Is that one of Verona's offspring? She's got there's about 4 or 5 black chickens here who have a green sheen to their feathers, who are all offspring of Verona. Woo! I did a little jump spin. So this court has given an unlawful order. And on the first case to evict Keenan Kurt, I'm clarifying that it's a fiction. Keenan Kurt does not exist. Keenan Kurt died in 2017. And myself, Sovereign Volodium, is not subject to that court. So, of course, I'm not going to accept eviction from my home or country. And I'll die fighting before that happens on this hill that I've decided to die upon. But I don't want to fight. And it's really an abhorrent decision by this judge to put the sheriffs and the troopers in this situation. It's just really awful. Like, this person needs to be tarred and feathered. Like, they need to be completely humiliated, and to understand how unlawful their dictation is. And it would be one thing, you could give them the benefit of the doubt if they hadn't already been provided all of the facts relative to the situation, but they've been duly provided, not only by me in the amicus curiae, front of the court brief, I may pronounce that wrong, curiae, I don't know, it's Latin, as well as in the response of the person who was subject to the court, who is essentially who the court is trying to hold liable to then destroy all of my property. And there's a bit of context for the plot here. So I've reached a point where I don't know where to go from here. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go grab the passport and Vermont ID of Keenan Kurt, and I will destroy them on camera. And then I'll put them in the fire and to evict Keenan Kurt permanently from this land, so that the first order, the sheriffs will know that there's nothing to do because Keenan Kurt is dead and evicted. And I'm not Keenan Kurt, and I don't answer to that name. That's not me. And Sovereign Volodium is not an alias. It's my lawful name by the authority of the exact same court who's trying to call me by a different name and saying my real name is an alias, because they know that I'm not under their jurisdiction, because they've been informed of that, and so they're literally trying to peddle a fiction that will cause loss of life, which is really just abhorrent. So yeah, I'm gonna go grab those things and I'll cut them up for you, and then I'll throw them in the fire. And then I'll do one more thing, one more great thing. So upon review, it turns out I don't have ID in Keenan Kurt's name relative to the state of Vermont. That one's already expired. But what so it's not relevant to like destroy it. It's already expired. But what I will do is renounce any affiliation with the state of Vermont, just because the birth certificate is of my body, with this vessel here, is registered in Colchester in the state of Vermont. And just because I petitioned the Addison County Court to do the name change from Keenan Kurt to Sovereign Non-Volotium, those would be the kind of connections of myself, Sovereign Non-Volotium, to the state of Vermont. And so I renounce any connection to the state of Vermont, though I acknowledge that birth certificate in Colchester has the details relative to my bodily vessel, which has been claimed by sovereign authority since that birth happened. And so that was just basically for the purpose of killing Keenan Kurt, so that he is just a fiction. So I'm not doing like this in the very best way, but you get the point. So anyways, here's the passport, which is still valid. Let me turn this around real quick. Okay, here we go. So it's got a little mold on it. This is a passport, valid passport of Keenan Kurt. I most recently went to Israel and Greece, and it's still valid. But Keenan Kurt is a fiction, and so the fiction is subject of the United States of America, but I'm not. And so I'm going to try to hold this while I cut this thing up. This is difficult. Hold on, let me just cut it up real quick, and then I'll get the camera back on. It's going to take 2 hands. I change of plan. I'm just not going to... Oh, here, I'll cut it separately. Gotta get it on camera. Cut it up. Stupid passport. Some places, they charge a lot of money for these stupid things. Why is it so hard to cut anyway? Oh, yeah, get it. Alright, here's the cover of it. Here's the page with the person. Rip it up. Cut it up. So, I formally renounce my citizenship. I don't actually acknowledge I ever had citizenship as a sovereign non-volotium, but most of all the bullshit is just based on assumptions. So this is not an assumption. I formally renounce citizenship of the United States. I'm no longer a dual. I'm not even we don't use the word citizen in Volotium. There's fully affirmed sovereigns, and then there's OG sovereigns who have OG creds, and then a fully accredited sovereign is a Jedi. So I am a Jedi of Volotium because I'm fully accredited with 168 OG creds, and I'm only subject of the jurisdiction of Volotium by my own consent. I renounce my U.S. citizenship, and that's all you actually have to do to renounce your citizenship. You just have to make the declaration, and there you go. And now I'm going to go throw the passport in the fire, and I'll put that on camera as well. All right, so here's the fire. Here's the passport. Here, the passport goes into the fire. Here's all the little pieces that related that passport to me, and they also go in the fire. So, Keenan Kurt is dead. Long live Sovereign Non-Volotium. Yeah, there's hot in there. Passport. Death. So, all the evidence is there that Keenan Kurt has now been evicted as well. He's dead, and he's evicted. And sovereign non-Volodium is not subject to the state of Vermont or the federal government, only to the country, the nation, the state of Volodium, as constituted in the affirmation of truth, rights, and responsibility. We have our own judicial system and our own jurisprudence established already. And we have self-determined ourselves that there's a nation, and then there's many residents in Volodium as well. So I'm going to go back outside now that this is sufficiently burned. I'll stir it real quick, just so that there's no sleight of hand. I'm not going to pull these things back out of the fire if I can find the right stirring tool, which is this axe here. This hatchet. Let me tell you about hatchets. The Green Mountain Boys, following Rogers Rangers, established the precedent of the Rangers having the hatchet, and they are the origination of the the Army Rangers. It's all connected, and I believe General Stark was in Rogers Rangers as well, though I'd have to check my data. Surely the Colonel Warner, Seth Warner, was a Rogers Ranger. I'm pretty sure. I got to check those things. But anyways, so there goes the passport. Evicted, fully evicted. There's no other semblance of Keenan-Kurt here. And yeah, so that settles the order of the court that Keenan-Kurt be evicted. So the sheriffs or troopers don't need to do anything because it's already done. Alright, so the final point of this video, so the second order of the court was to destroy all of my property here. So that's not going to happen so long as I'm alive. So what the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is, what does it say? The people want to say it's about the right to bear arms, but it's about the right of a militia to defend a free state. Volodium is a free state, and I am commanding general of the militia of Volodium. As such, it's my duty to defend this free state. And the order to destroy the property of myself, and it's not just my property, that's the point I'm getting to, is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenants, other tenants, residents in Volodium, who are my tenants. Voluntarily, I have provided them with services, and so that they can live. There's a great demand in this stupid sanctuary external state that Volodium is enclaved in. Great demand for affordable housing. So I provided affordable housing for a number of people. There's 5 different family units, 5 to 10 different people that are full to part-time residents here who have their property here, and they have their rights to their property. And this judge's order would be a contravention of the rights of all of these other people who are not included in that order, while the only person who is referenced in the order is a person who's not subject to that court. So the order itself is implying warfare against a neighboring state and murder of people and aggressing against their property, while also disenfranchising all of the other residents here who have their property here. So it's unlawful on so many different levels, whether it's the federal constitution or the state constitution, relative to the militia defending a free state, whether it's relative to property, due process. There's no due process relative to all these other residents and their property, relative to evicting or destroying their property. I mean, it's all completely unlawful. And therefore, it cannot be enacted in good conscience by any sheriff or state trooper. And really, this judge is a complete embarrassment. But I think I covered all the important points there. I think it's a blue jay. Oh, blue jay came around to say hi. So that's all the important points relative to this clown of a judge's order. And the intent of doing this is to speak the truth and keep the peace. And that is my intent. I'm a peaceful neighbor providing services to a number of people. It's all voluntary interactions, and everyone benefits as a result of it. The only person that seems to be in conflict is this Vermont Land Trust, on whose behalf the judge made the order. And the land is no longer within the trust that is Vermont. It's within the trust that is Allodium, and it is entrusted as such, and the land will be taken good care of, and it's providing services that are much needed. And for anyone in the Vermont Land Trust with Vermont in the name, you should understand the origin story of Vermont and what it represents, and understand that the precedent that was set by Vermont originally relative to the pre-existing authorities of New York and the Crown. So I'm not arguing adverse possession. I am not arguing anything at all. I'm just standing in the truth of this sovereign state of Allodium as a sovereign being myself, free and sovereign state, and as commanding general of the militia of this state. If any foreign agents are coming to enforce an unlawful order, then I will greet them as such, and hopefully that will also be a non-violent interaction. Just like there were nonviolent interactions when the enforcers of the state of New York were sent to evict the native Vermonters, and the Vermonters showed up as a militia armed, and they had a standoff, and no one died, except I think at one point they were like barricading a courthouse, and then they got fired upon. But in some ways that's somewhat understandable, because it's like, whose courthouse is that? But it's like, this isn't a courthouse, this is all entirely my property. And everything is well within my rights and has been done lawfully. There's no reason for any violent aggression, and I'm an adherent to the non-aggression principle, which includes in it the necessity of neutralizing aggressors if they unlawfully aggress, which hopefully that never happens, because that's the whole point of the art of war, is to not have any war and to keep the peace. And that is my intent, and hopefully that is a result. So I think that's the end of this video. Thanks for listening. Hopefully it gets to the specific parties that it's intended for, and everyone else, there's just more context relative to the plot. What I'm doing here is the right of every person, and that is the greatest threat to the empire, is that people do what I'm doing. Therefore, they might try to make an example out of me. And so it is. Evil empires do evil things, and only by the inaction of good people can evil thrive. So here's one person taking action. Here's a goat trying to eat my cord. He's a good goat, though. Even though it says bad on the window, it's just the window, the oven window, that was bad. And that's why it's on the hut. It's not because the goats are bad. The goats are very good. So that's all. Thanks for listening.